I suppose kind of moving on from that, obviously I can see you there in a Mayo top, which as a Dublin fan, you know, it doesn't always sit right with me. But at least it's over a Zoom, so it's okay.
Well, we have one for every day of the week, you know, like, so this is,
yeah.
this is a Monday top, you know.
But I suppose, like, how would you feel as a Mayo fan going into the championship this year? Because obviously it has been. I mean, I thought 2019 looked good for Mayo. Like, you won the league, All-Ireland semi-final, beating the likes of Mayo and Armagh, the qualifiers. You know, getting through Kerry and Donegal. I know they lost to Kerry, but you know, still got through that group. So I suppose, like, how would you feel as a Mayo fan going into this year's championship?
Well, of course, you know, this year has just been, even, you know, we were chatting on a phone call the last day about the league, and I feel like the league is 10 years ago now. You know what I mean? Like, it feels so long ago. Like, this year it's been a time warp in every way. It's hard to, some people feel like it's been a long year, people feel like it's a short year. Other lads are now advertising their products for Christmas, so that's kind of scary, you know. But the thing is, this year, I firmly believe that if you look at people outside of sport, they've used 2020 as a time of kind of looking at things, looking at where their life is at in terms of their career or their family, or how they can do better in various things, or, you know, maybe they haven't got the best of health and they're trying to work on their health, for example. These are all very positive things that have come out of COVID-19. And I feel like it was a year that with the Gaelic Athletic Association, like any associations, we had the problems with the FAI, for example, with John Delaney and that. But there's little tweaks and little kinks in the pipes that could have actually been sorted out, you know, and it could have been used as kind of a year to, like, tidy up, you know, issues from before with player welfare, with, you know, with games just going back to the other, with younger players being asked to play on 4 or 5 different teams, but yet when it comes to the senior, a few years later, that these players with great prospect have also just disappeared. And it could have been used as a year to really kind of focus on weak points. Like, every organization has weak points, and really kind of develop the game going forward in the future. And, like, it's now, you know, we're coming into October. I don't think there's any reason to have a, you know, inter-county championship this year. That's my own viewpoint. The club championship in football and hurling has been fantastic, and, you know, it's really brought a focus back onto the clubs of where these great players come from. You know, in our own situation back in Mayo, you know, this weekend, you know, the infamous Aidan O'Shea, who's been on the county scene for years, unfortunately has missed out on another county final. Like, a fantastic player. But I suppose what it comes down to at the end of the day is that there's always good players in Mayo, and there's always good players in the club scene that don't get seen when you know, when everything is focused on the inter-county championship. And again, no one planned this pandemic this year, but, like, take the positive of that, and you can see most of the country have seen these fantastic club players that you might never have heard of before. You yourself, Aaron, you're from Dublin. There's players that never get seen in Dublin, simply because there's only 15 players you can play in a panel of 30, or maybe extended panel of 40. And there's some fantastic club players that you will never hear of. They would probably make many other county teams, but you'll never hear them because they're from Dublin. And that's a story for another day, because it's such a big place. But you can see in other counties too. You can see these club players coming through, and again, you know, the Gaelic football and hurling has reached such a standard now that the career is shortening all the time. You know, you have a couple of years at the top, and then you're on the way down, and there's some 20-year-old, 22-year-old on the way up, and he's ready to go. And, you know, sometimes the likes of say Dermot Hurley, he peaked very, very young. I know he played a long time for Kildare, but, you know, he was an All-Ireland final at 18 years of age, and he thought himself in many interviews, you get to an All-Ireland final every year. You know, sometimes you're old enough when when you're good enough, you know, that sort of way. And players' careers don't last as long, you know. So I suppose that's a long-winded answer to where I'm going with this question with the Inter-County Championship. Like, look, if it happens, it happens. But if the year got written off and they just focused on January, which is only around the corner, and a couple of the preliminary leagues leading into the league, I think that'll be more of a sensible approach.
Yeah, and would you be surprised then, like, when you see, like, obviously they're condensing all the matches through October, November, December? I mean, penalty shootouts for every game. Like, were you surprised kind of by that approach, and do you think even maybe they should just scrap it all together, at least for 2020 anyway, and then kind of focus into 2021?
I mean, yes, because what's the point? You're completely, changing the game, and you're changing the whole layout, and you're squishing games together for what? Like, what's the end goal out of this? Is it just to simply in 10 years' time to run down and go, oh, Dublin won the 2020 championship. We won't even remember. You know what I mean? It's going to be a blur. You know, like you're going to run it. Let's just say that someone left Sam Maguire in just before Christmas. I mean, I don't know. What I don't see the purpose of it running back to back. It must have been tough though. If you're a county player all year long and you've been on edge, keeping like your fitness, programs and everything else taken over all the time, but not really allowed to meet up with your other players and squad members. That must have been tough because you're all year hanging on. And I think a lot of the time it's the hanging on that kills people, not the actual result.
Yeah.
And I think the decision should have been made. For example, the European Championships were called off. That decision was made. It was done. Mm-hmm. Okay, if the GAA want to be professional, let them be professional. If they want to be amateur, let them be amateur. But half the time they're just floating around the middle somewhere. And it's they're professional when it suits, and then they're amateur when it suits, and that's very frustrating. I can only imagine it must be very, very frustrating for county players. You know what I mean? Because it's hard enough as a club player these days. The club player has a nearly professional lifestyle when it comes to Gaelic football and hurling, and if you're a county player, it's another step up again.
But I suppose obviously it kind of is it is an up and down situation, and you do feel sorry for the players in many ways, because obviously it is the players at the end of the day that are risking their lives. They're going out there, especially out on the pitch. Obviously, when we're in a level 3 lockdown in Dublin, I think it's mainly just from a GAA perspective in terms of money, in terms of TV deals. I think that's one of the main reasons why. It's why they're pushing it through, unfortunately. Like, obviously, from my own point of view, I obviously want to see the matches, and I'm like, in my point of view, I'm happy it is going ahead. But at the same time, I do get some players and even some referees that have come out and said, look, listen, I'm not going to take part in the championship this year because I'm worried about X, Y, Z and everything else. And especially when cases at the moment are on the rise, like, I do think it could actually be a strong possibility that that the championship doesn't go ahead. I think definitely the league, I think that should go, definitely, in my opinion. Especially, like, I was speaking to Dara Corcoran, last week there for the Waterford footballers, and he was even saying, having to travel to somewhere like Antrim, it kind of doesn't really make sense in many ways. Like, when you're kind of putting players at risk like that, who have to travel from one end of the country to another.